Hi and welcome to another episode of Delaware County Political News. Meet the Expert. We are here with Cliff Wilson, former chairman of the Delaware County Democratic Party. If you didn't have a chance, please go back and watch Part 1 and Part 2, where Cliff Wilson discusses the Southeast Delaware County Democratic Party and his candidacy, and Part 2, where he discusses the history of the GOP and the history of the County Democratic Party. Cliff, while you were chairman of the Delco Dems, what GOP strategies did you observe during campaign season?
Well, initially, beginning of this century, like 2000, the standard Republican strategy was to ignore the opposition. No debates, no negative literature or anything like that. Very little positive television advertising, even for themselves, because we certainly couldn't have the money. And near the election, say a couple weeks before the election, they'd start to flood the county with signs. Our people love signs. And then, of course, they'd bring that army out on election day, those 3,000 employees. If you add volunteers and committee people, they may very well have had the ability sometimes to put 5,000 people in the field on election day. That's phenomenal. That means they had people to make phone calls, people to stand at polling places and talk to voters, and people to go and knock on doors and bring out voters and even drive them to polls. I mean, they had all that. And so their strategy was, we're going to win. We'll ignore the Democrats. Our strategy, and I think it may have been the only strategy at that time, but the Democratic strategies, local and county, was how do we get Republican votes? Because there are more registered Republicans at that point than Democrats. You're not going to win in November if you can't crack some of the Republican votes. And that's where our presidential candidates and gubernatorial candidates, Ed Rendell and so forth, were successful in doing. But what happened in the 21st century, after I'd say starting in 2001, we ran a special election in 2001 for state senator. And the Republicans took it seriously enough that they engaged in a debate. We didn't win that race, but it was the first time we cracked the debate thing, and over the following years, we started debating them, and they used to, we can't have a debate because we have to go to the League of Women Voters candidate forum. And so finally, one year, I was chairman and we did this. We boycotted that forum, and we told the League of Women Voters and we told the Chamber of Commerce, because they used to run this joint forum, would never be another Democrat at their forums unless they supported open debates. By the way, we now have debates. Republicans have conceded that issue, but they never did. So as time started to change around 2001, we put up some strong candidates countywide. We ran campaigns. The registration started to change. We reached 40% by 2006 in our registration. And then, of course, came the great turning point of 2006. Now, some would say it was Rendell winning in 2002, and I'm not denigrating that at all. But I think the turning point here in Delaware County was a gentleman named Joseph Sestak. And the Admiral Sestak came to this county, and he said, I can beat Kurt Weldon. And he said to me, Cliff, I can beat him because your candidate 2 years ago got 42%. And if your candidate 2 years ago, Paul Scholes, got 42% with a 7-week campaign and almost no money, and take this guy. And he did. He won. He got elected a congressman. Brian Lenz got elected a state rep against an incumbent. And things really, really started to change. Joe wasn't political in the sense of building a party. We still had that job, but it was the enthusiasm people said, my goodness, we can elect a congressman, we can re-elect a congressman, we can elect another state representative, we can re-elect a state representative. In 2010 we did elect yet a third, or a fourth representative, although we lost one seat. But anyway, things started changing. The registration got better and better. Instead of growing by a percentage point every year, we were growing by 2 or 3. You know, I had an opponent once, I think it was in 2006, said, we keep re-electing Wilson County leader, it'll take us another 50 years. Well, he didn't know his math, because the fact of the matter is by 2013, we had a majority of what are called active Democrats. I think by 2012 we had a majority of all, but the all is a misleading state figure. But the point is that the Democratic registration has grown. So now, today's strategy.
Before you go into that,
yeah,
as you're describing how those numbers are changing, what would you observe during election season and election day? How did you notice that things manifested themselves differently?
Well, on election day, particularly in even-numbered years, more Democrats came out. I mean, you could, if you were at a polling place where you went all the time.
And that's when we elect the governor, and that's when we elect the president.
The representatives, the president, the congressman. So 2006, then 2008, 2010, 2012, more Democrats were coming out. And in many, many parts of the county, as people moved out, they were primarily Republicans, because that had been the registration, and people moving in were Democrats. If you look at the registration numbers by year, you will notice that in this county and in most of the municipalities, not all of them, people registered to vote before the year 2000. Majority are Republican. And in most cases, Fulcrum, for example, too, every year after that, more people registered Democrat than Republican that year. So it takes time, but they build up till we get the percentages. So at that point, you have a different Democratic Party problem. You have to change the strategy, which we tried to do even in 12, or well, not 12, I guess in 8 and 9 and 10, and I guess we were ahead of our time. You got to get the Democrats out. The fact of the matter is, had every Democrat who voted for Al Gore in the year 2000 come out and voted the next year, we would have won the special election for state senator, which would revolutionize the county. So
what election was this, and who ran?
Special election. Hawthorne was our candidate, and Erickson was their candidate.
Oh, this is Erickson.
Yes. And we would have won if we had gotten out the 2,000 voters. But in those days, there were still many Democrats who believed you can't win without getting Republicans. And so they would focus on Republicans. So we had somewhat of, I wouldn't say a division, but we did have a different division. My belief was, and today even stronger, I think today we're doing it, go get the Democrats. Go get the Democrats. You could try to get the independents, but here's a fact about independents: they're not going to change. I don't know how to change it. They will vote in decent numbers in even-numbered years, but they're terrible voters in odd-numbered years.
How do you explain that?
I don't know. Probably a lack of realization of the value, and also possibly a knowledge of thinking that, well, Republicans are going to win these ones anyway. So it's probably both. And remember, many independents don't even realize that by being an independent they can't vote in a primary. So you're already dealing with people who have a little less understanding of what this is all about.
So Cliff, we're the 24th here of October, and even though that I believe by last count there was some 16,000 more Democrats registered in the county than Republicans, but we still have a complete Republican-led county council and a complete Republican judiciary and all the row offices in the county courthouse. What negatives do you observe from a one-party system?
Well, one of the big negatives of a one-party system is you don't have accountability. The elected officials don't necessarily feel accountable. 5 Republicans sit on a county council to make a decision. Let's say the public gets really agitated, which they never do, against one of those ideas. So, okay, they let the Republican who's got to run the next time and the most vulnerable, he can vote no. It's going to pass 4-1. Or it's going to pass 3-2. I mean, there really is, there's no accountability. If they don't want to produce certain documents, certain papers, if they don't want to bother to fill a position for 6 months, or they want to fill it in one day, there is no accountability. They don't feel accountable. I don't think they feel accountable to voters. Where you have a competitive party system, that's not the case. But unfortunately, most of America is non-competitive, both due to gerrymandering and due to natural causes. I mean, Delaware County is not gerrymandered. These municipalities were drawn a century ago based on rivers and creeks, not on Republicans and Democrats. And so it's not, I think the lack of accountability. And when there's no accountability, that opens the opportunity for both incompetence and I will say the word corruption, graft. I am not one of those who had, and I didn't do it for 16 years, I probably lost myself some support in the party. I did not rant and rave against the corruption of the Republican Party machine, because I think most of the Republican elected officials and most of the Republican committee people and most of the Republican voters are not corrupt people. Okay? This is not a county with a basket of deplorables, and they're not Republicans. But you don't need more than one rotten apple to spoil a barrel, as they say. We have some of the Democrats. If you have no accountability, if you have every office, every judge is a Republican, all except one on the county court of common pleas was elected, handpicked by the Republican machine. And with that, I think some people develop a sense of immunity to being checked or being called up. So if they have to make a choice between two people for a position, they don't hesitate to take the one whose relative they're close to, or the one whose appointment might benefit even, say, a business they're interested in, because nobody's going to pay attention and no one's going to come after them.
And this is what a minority voice corrects.
This is what a minority voice corrects. One minority member of the county council would be a tremendous spotlight on the other four. If that member decided to be solidly independent and raise questions. Now, 2 members means you could actually make motions and get them seconded. You might lose 2 to 3, but you could force the Republicans to go on record. It would change the entire nature of the way it operates. And I think we're almost there. Delaware County's almost there. The year 2017, it is entirely possible a Democrat is going to win a county race.
During your time as chairman, or otherwise, what comments can you make about the newspaper coverage in Delaware County, the media's treatment of candidate endorsements, and any type of political slang?
The newspaper coverage got better, okay? In the 90s, as I said earlier, they'd covered the election for county chairman, which went from 2 years to 4 years, so we got even less coverage. But after 2000, they started to cover competitive races. They covered the state senate race I mentioned. They covered the congressional race in 2006 tremendously. I mean, Joe Sestak was on the front cover. We held press conferences. They came. I don't think they may have endorsed him. I don't remember. I know they didn't hate, but I think we got. I think that the County Daily Times coverage became much more objective and much fairer to Democrats in the last dozen years. Now, if you notice and read carefully their editorials, they have likewise become more liberal and progressive on national and state issues. So I think that's a factor too. You can't sit up there and write all these editorials about what's wrong with gerrymandering and why we need a shell tax and what's wrong in Washington, and then turn around here and say, but ignore the Democrats down here because they're just nothing. I mean, you can't do it. You got to do both, and I think they're doing both. The same with endorsements. I think the fact that the Delaware County AFL-CIO Council endorsed Madden for County Council is historic. It took all of our ability, and there was a lot of lobbying to get the state AFL-CIO in 1996 to endorse Joe Sestak because the county AFL-CIO wouldn't. And that took the state to step in. And the county AFL-CIO was one of my great frustrations, because my entire political life I've been with organized labor, and I kept this party behind organized labor with union literature and stuff that a lot of our people didn't want to do anymore because the unions were always supporting the Republicans. This endorsement of Madden is fantastic. It's the first break. Now, if he wins, I think it may lead to future endorsements because labor likes to go with the winner.
Let me ask you about that. Where do you think the county is headed?
The county will be a Democratic county. If we do not win races this year, and I think there's a good chance we can, but if we don't, I think that 4 years from now, when we again have 2 council people in the row offices, we should take it all.
It's just a numbers game, isn't it?
It's a numbers game. It's more and more becoming democratic. I think after the next presidential year, that 16,000 that you talk about is going to be 25,000, 30,000. It will be hard in 2 years because there'll be 3 seats on county council up, and based on what they've done in municipalities, the county Republicans in 2 years, in 2019, are going to spend everything to their last dime to keep control. If whether we win this year or don't win this year, they're going to move heaven and earth to keep control, and then I think it's done.
So your prediction is no more than 4 years that they crack the
I think
ceiling?
in 2021, if we don't, I think we may crack the ceiling this year, but in 2021 we will definitely crack the ceiling. Delaware County is going to go from being a Republican county to being a Democratic county. It's going to go from one party to the other, and the Pennsylvania law and the straight ticket button has a lot to do with it.
Well, Cliff, that's all we have time for today. But again, I want to thank you for being a guest on Delaware County Political News.
Very well.
We have been here with Cliff Wilson, former chair of the Delaware County Democratic Party, and I am your host, Larry DeMarco. If you like this video and the other 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, please don't forget to forward these links to all the contacts on your to all the members on your contact list and all your Facebook friends.
Thank you for doing this, and I don't know if I'm still on, but if we'd had you, and we did have you running for office, but if we had you producing this, when I was chairman for 16 years, I might have become a YouTube star, you never know. But thank you, because this gives us our way to reach people.
And again, jumping on to what Cliff said, if you have any type of advocacy message that you have, please send me an email to the following email below, larrydemarco4@gmail.com, or open up your laptop, just hit play and record, make your own video and post it up on YouTube. But if you like Delaware County Political News, like, follow, share, and subscribe. That's all we have time for today. Signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.